Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. This podcast is primarily about my knitting projects and my horsemanship. Sorry, I have a cat trying to get into one of my knitting projects, so excuse me while I rescue my yarn. Anyway, so knitting projects and my horsemanship journey with my two horses, Odin and Bragi the Mustangs. Mustangs that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program. I've provided a link for that in the show notes if you are interested in that. And also, I usually mention something about cooking and gardening, which are also sources of inspiration and interest for me. So this is episode 15. Thanks for joining me. The title of this one is Against My Better Judgment, and I will get to that later. So I know my mom watches this, and I may have told you about this, Mom. I'm not sure, but just rest assured, it's all behind me, so I'm just going to save that for later. So anyway, my name is Corrina, and I live in the very northwestern part of the United States with my partner, our two kitties, the two horses I mentioned, and I am recording on Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. It is a beautiful day today. Fall is in the air, or autumn, depending what part of the world you live in. And summer has kind of returned too. We had a little bit of rain in the week, which I found very refreshing. We had a very long winter, and we didn't really get summer until the second week of July. So not everyone who lives here agrees with me on that, who's ready for rain, but I am a true Pacific Northwest person, and I do miss the rain. When it hasn't been around for a while, and we have been in a drought for most of that since that second week of July. So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I want to say that first. I'm changing things up a little bit, and just let me know how you think it's going. So pardon me while I fiddle with a little bit. I kind of see like the light fixture behind my head, so maybe that's a little bit better. Last time I recorded on my computer, and the feedback I got was that the lighting wasn't that great, and also what I found is that it just wasn't easy to add extra content than when I record on my phone. So recording on my phone may be the best option. So just feel free to leave me any feedback in the comments. I really appreciate that, and I will try to incorporate that as best as I can. I am not even somewhat. I am technologically challenged, so I will take the easy route as much as possible. So you'll notice, I don't include music or text or really anything else. It's really all I can do to add some extra video footage and maybe some photos at the end of the video. That is about the end of my skill set. So nothing fancy here. I'm also changing up my introduction a bit. This is based on a course that I took a few days ago. It was a work-related course about giving good presentations, so just thought I'd change up my introduction a little bit. And again, let me know if you like it or if you have other suggestions. Definitely willing to incorporate new ideas. Ideas I'm good with. Technology, not so much. So if you've been here before, you know that I typically start with an old finished object. So I am going to start with a hat that I knit. This is a worsted weight. I believe this is worsted weight. I think this is a Cascade yarn. Pretty sure it's Cascade yarn. And it was really just a one skein project, so you'll notice it has some bobble stitch and some, I'm not sure what kind of stitch that is in the in the diamonds here, but then it has this kind of pattern. So hat I wear, it's not quite hat wearing the weather yet, but showing this project was easier than putting on a sweater. So, because like I said, it's pretty warm out today. So if it wasn't quite as warm, I'd probably leave that hat on because my hair just won't behave itself. So, well, but that is the nature of my hair. That's an old finished object. I think they finished that. It's been a couple winters, so it's been a while. My new finished object, and if you've been with me for a while, you, yes, Great Expectations, that I finally finished my songbird mittens. This is a pattern. This is a paid-for pattern. So let's see the songbirds on here. Let me see, getting the light. So the songbird is in pink, right and left. So this is, I think it's called a Selbo style mitten. So it's a Scandinavian style. So with this kind of pointy, which is really nice. I mean, my middle finger fits right in there. I mean, these fit my hands really well. And then it has this nice kind of cuff pattern. So again, too warm for mittens today. So I put these back on the shelf so they're safe from the kitty cats. This pattern is by Erica Husel. It's fingering weight yarn. The pink yarn is a sock yarn, and the gold yarn, or kind of that goldenrod color yarn, is 100% wool. And I don't remember who the yarn is by for either one of them. The pink yarn is actually quite a nice feeling, soft, very soft yarn. I don't remember what the fiber is either. But I know the goldenrod yarn is 100% wool. So the pink yarn, I wonder if might be some alpaca or something like that. So I'm not sure. Whips. So what do I have for whips? I have the Lola top. So this is repurposed yarn out of a striped crochet project. So I will have a million ends to weave in. See? So ordinarily, if you're just knitting stripes, you can let those ends dangle, but this is really the length of the yarn. So this is Lola top. It's by Kutavakika. She is a Finnish designer. I have her YouTube channel link in my show notes. So this top is a tank top. It's a summer top. I doubt I will finish it before summer ends. But this part goes like up to the collarbone, and then there's a strap, kind of a wide strap. You can probably make the strap as wide as you like. So this is the front part, and then I'm knitting the back part, and this is top down. I think I decided to make the back a little bit wider, so because I don't really like my clothing to be super snug, so I may end up adding some additional width on this. But and I'm gonna have to make that decision soonish. So because what happens is you knit these two pieces and then you start knitting in the round. So I'm gonna need to take some measurements and just kind of, oh, that's quite a bit wider. Well, maybe it is supposed to come up to the back. Well, why don't I just look at the pattern? So I can show you what it looks like. I see. Okay, so this makes sense. So the back you can see is wider, and it comes down kind of more mid-back, whereas the top does go up near the collarbones, which is why it's quite a bit narrower. So in any event, I am going to measure, because I have had some knitting errors lately where I had to knit quite a bit extra. And it ends up looking a little patchworky, but you know, in a way it doesn't matter because it's generally under my arm, down the side, under my arm, and I'm just not that fussy. So that is what that is. That one's kind of having a little bit of a timeout, and I'll explain about that in a minute. And ghost horses, which had a long timeout. And then while I was on vacation and spending time with my mom and my sister in Wisconsin, I got the courage to rip it out. I had divided for sleeves and then found that the yoke was too short. So I ripped it back to the sleeves, so to about here. It's hard to see, but anyway, I ripped it back and then knit about this much more yoke. So, I don't know, about 2.5 inches or so. So, and I just divided for sleeves again. So let me show you the ghost horses. So I think you can see. Yeah, pretty, huh? So I've started working on that again. That's been kind of an evening project while I'm watching TV. The color work is pretty repetitive, so I don't find that, I find it pretty easy to watch TV and knit it. Although, it's funny I say that because this is probably the third time I've actually started knitting this project again. When I first started it, I used 2 skeins of yarn that didn't have enough contrast, and then it was really hard to see the horses, and it was just hard to see where I was. One thing I've learned about stranded color work, and I think I've heard this from Fruity Knitting podcast, again, that link is in my show notes. You can read color work, you can read your yarn, and you know where you're supposed to be. Another good resource is the Philosopher's Wool. They have a book about stranded color work, and that's how I learned how to knit both right-handed and left-handed and carry my floats. That was super helpful, and they have a very non-particular way. If you make a mistake, you know, you can incorporate into your pattern, and I would be happy to point out a mistake that I made in the color work on this. It ends up, somehow I ended up with overlapping horses, and let's see if I can find it, because the way this works, you can see the horses just kind of gallop one right after another. Well, somewhere in here, I have like 2 horses overlapping. And now, of course, I can't find it. But, oh, that's funny. Oh, here it is. And, you know, I had to look pretty hard for this, but it's right here. So here's the one horse right here, and then there's like part of another horse here, and then the next horse is here. So there's a little bit of to me it looks like it's more of a herd of horses running. So and it's just, you know, one of the things that makes knitting custom. So so anyway, I hope this one fits really nice because I've worked really hard on this one, and had to start over a couple times, and it had to have a timeout, and then, you know, of course, re-knitting the yoke. Ghost horses. So, and the other thing I have on my needles is the Soccerween Cow. The Soccerween Cow is a sock cow hosted by the Bakery Bears, and I got this Halloween yarn. I specifically requested kind of Halloween colors from a independent yarn dyer, Ray Knitterman Whiting. It ended up being a very busy pattern because I asked for 4 colors, and the color changes are pretty rapid in succession. So it's ending up being a very busy sock, which is fine. I am using this kind of plum eggplant color as a contrast color, just for just a little bit of color at the cuff and then the heel and then the toe. And then the pattern I'm using is from an Ann Budd book called Sock Master Class or something like that. And this pattern is called, I think it's Almondine. So the photo's in black and white from Cheap. But you can see, hopefully you can see kind of this pattern. It's not cable. It is just a kind of a moving pearl strip. And there's some yarn overs, so I think it's going to be a fairly lightweight sock. This is fingering weight yarn. And the pattern is down the heel, or down the back of the leg too. So I think I'm gonna knit this one again. I really like the pattern. It's a 16 row repeat with, how many stitches are per row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. And a 10 stitch repeat for each row. So you cast on an even number of stitches depending on what or a multiple of 10 is what I'm trying to say, depending on what your foot size is. So normally I cast on like 64 to 68 stitches, but this one I did 70, so because I think 60 would just be too small for me. So what else do I have going on here? Oh, here's another, just a kind of a vanilla sock out of Patton's Croy yarn. It's a self-striping, so this is, yeah, just this is out of a custom sock book pattern that I've memorized. So what I do, and I do these kind of just above the ankle. So they're not shorty socks exactly. They are, I don't know, just like 5 inches maybe. So what I do is I do 12 rows of 2x2 rib. This is just the yarn, so there's no additional contrast color for the cuff. This is just yarn, so 12 rows of 2x2 rib, and then I'll do 30 rows of leg, and then I'll start the heel, and I do a heel flap and gusset. So that's what I was working on when I was just kind of waiting for Soccerween to start, which started yesterday. Soccerween, I think I mentioned, is hosted by the Bakery Bears. They are out of the UK, and very regular podcasters with also an online magazine, which is good to read too. So Riptad is, I added a new category. What am I ripping out and starting over on? So a couple episodes, or maybe last episode, I talked about the their green speckled yarn that I yarn dyed by Skein and Tipple on Whidbey Island, which is a combination yarn store and cocktail bar. What a great concept. Anyway, I had one sock finished. I knit it mostly on the plane over to Wisconsin when I was visiting a couple weeks ago. But it was just too big, and I didn't like it. So what happened, I think, is that my normal gauge is fine, and then I decided to start knitting left-handed, and I talked about that in my last episode. Well, my gauge changed. That shouldn't be a surprise. Why did I change from knitting left hand to right hand? My cats, there's a bug on the ceiling, and the cats are very interested in it. You know, I just think it's good to balance movement just to avoid any overuse injuries. So, I do knit stranded color work, so a lot of times I'm knitting, but with both hands, left and right. But as much as possible, I knit with my left hand. And what I do notice, though, is that if I'm in a tricky part or I'm kind of stressed out about it, I knit right-handed because that's my dominant hand. I don't have to think as much. So I also think that changing it up a little bit is good for your brain. So, that mind-hand coordination is good. So I ripped that out. I will, that yarn is in a timeout until I finish up Soccerween, or I'm hoping to get 2 pairs of socks done for Soccerween. We'll see. I have lots of projects. I've got those whips that I mentioned, and I work full time, and I have horses, and I like to cook and garden. So, there's only so many hours in the day. And, I don't know. And I think a lot of knitters, tend to get a little hand sore. So it's probably good to do other things. So, and then my next category is what I'm casting on next. So I've mentioned the Love Note sweater by Tin Can Knits. I will, that is still on the horizon, so I didn't bring that yarn up to show. I bought that yarn from Skane and Tipple on Whidbey Island in July. So I will bring that out, actually. I'll probably mention it until I actually cast it on, but I'm either going to finish the Ghost Horses or the Lola top before I cast that on. So, what is next on the horizon? Next on the horizon are this pattern. It's a free pattern by Knit Picks by Amy Snell, and this is called Winter's Gift Socks. I have some fingering yarn that I just bought on sale. It's West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. So, and it's these 2 colors. This is showing up very teal on the camera, at least as far from my point of view. It's more green. This is showing white, which is true to color. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to switch these up a little bit. So where you see the white on the pattern, that's going to be green. Where you see the blue on this pattern, that's going to be white. So and these little stars and these little speckles you see in here, that's part of the pattern, will be the green. So, I don't know. I'll let you know how that turns out. So, really enjoying knitting socks right now. I remember when I have a good friend who knits socks, and I remember when she was knitting socks, I was like, what's the big deal about knitting socks? But I don't know. It took me years, but I get it. So this bag, Mustang Yearling, Washington Youth. So this is the organization that held the event that I adopted my first Mustang, Odin the Mustang, from. So they have a competition every year, and as part of the Mustang Heritage Foundation, they're what they call their extreme Mustang makeovers. I don't know if these are so extreme. I mean, I guess it's extreme in the sense that you take a wild horse that has not had any handling by a human, and you help it become a good partner with you. So maybe that is kind of extreme. It's an extreme change. So anyway, enough about that. I think I was showing my bags. So my mom made this bag that is holding the Soccerween. My friend Margot made this bag that's holding Ghost Horses. The My Y bag, that is holding that that Future sock. This is a cool bag. This is the other sock just out of the Patton's Croy, the self-striping yarn. This is a cool bag. A friend of mine from graduate school gave this to me, and it actually changes color if it's exposed to solar radiation. So I'm kind of holding it up in the sunshine right now, see if it'll change. And it kind of is. But sometimes like it'll just be very, very pink if it's sitting out in the sun. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's kind of turned a little bit darker than it was, and has a little rose color to it. And then this bag that's holding Lola knits. This is a City of Thousand Oaks from when I worked for the National Park Service and lived near Thousand Oaks, California. And this was in the early 2000s, and they really got on the bandwagon for doing bringing your own bag to the grocery store. So I think that's pretty cool, and I just love these bags. I don't buy special bags, but I love getting them as gifts, and I love just using canvas bags. So so that is it for knitting, because I have no new acquisitions. I know, hard to believe. There's even though, you know, all the email lists that I'm on with, you know, tempting yarn to buy. I think I'm just gonna pause for a little bit. I didn't see any yarn, even sock yarn, that grabbed me, so I'm not gonna acquiesce into or cave into temptation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Gardening. So harvesting. It's harvesting a lot of tomatoes. They are wonderful. They're so tasty. So still harvesting zucchini. It's a little bit harder to get through those, but at least they're not the giant ones, so they're the small ones. I'm by myself this week because Randy went on a multi-day bicycle trip. So I am kind of responsible for eating all the produce right now, which is, it's good for me. So that's totally fine. I planted in the spring, which was June this year. I planted these little container adapted or container bred cabbage seeds, and I just got this cute little cabbage that is like the size of a softball, and I made some ramen with that as part of my ramen soup, and oh, that was really tasty. But it was just like the perfect personal sized cabbage. So I think I got that from those seeds from Territorial Seed. So I'm gonna plant more cabbage because I like the personal size cabbage. It was very tasty. Not terribly strong. I don't know if you've ever noticed that sometimes cabbage can even be kind of spicy sometimes, but it wasn't like that at all. So what else? Zucchini, tomatoes, cabbage, my flowers, my dahlias, they are loving the sunshine. So I have these gorgeous, pale pink dahlias that a friend of mine gave me. It was either last year or the year before, can't remember. And then some kind of yellow, light yellow ones. And then my sunflowers. So I have this really glorious pale pink, and then these just vibrant yellow flowers. So those are wonderful. And then I've got some pink sedum flowers as well, and chive flowers, which are kind of yellowish. So, and I planted, a neighbor was giving away phlox, purple phlox, and peonies. So I planted some of those in a section of our flower beds that need attention, and so we'll see how they do. I love free plants. Cooking projects. So right now I have bread dough. I make sourdough bread, so I have that going downstairs. I don't know that I'll bake it, but I'll just, proof the dough and stick it in the freezer until it's time to bake. That works out really well. So I just bring the bread dough through its process of rising and working with the dough to encourage the gluten to form, make it stretchy and yummy when it's baked. And then instead of putting it in the oven, I just wrap it up very tightly and stick it in the freezer. And then when I do want to bake it, all I have to do is thaw it out and then stick it in the preheated oven. It turns great. I'd like to make some German spritz cookies, which are basically butter cookies. There's lots of traditions for that, kind of shortbread type, or like Danish butter cookies. These are German butter cookies. So I have the ingredients, but now it's like 80 degrees outside, so it's just not quite fall baking yet. And then other than that, I'm just being creative with leftovers, trying to clean out the refrigerator while Randy's away. Horses. So here's where we get to the against my better judgment. Everyone was fine. We were all safe. But last Sunday, a week ago, I took Odin to the local tree farm, and I was by myself. And it is my principle to not ride when I'm by myself. It's just not. I don't feel like it's safe. I mean, if something were to spook the horse and I fell off and he got scared and ran off, it's not safe for him. It's obviously not safe for me. So what I do is I just load him up in the horse trailer and we just go for a walk, like I'm walking a 1,200-pound dog. So we went on this trail that's not very well used by bicyclists or other hikers. It kind of goes through some clear cuts, and it's mostly a road, which is perfect for what I wanted to do, which was just get some exercise and get my horse some exercise and have a change of scenery. So I just had him in a halter and lead rope, and I was just hiking boots and just pants and a shirt. Well, we got to the bottom of a hill, and it was about time to turn around. And we kind of enjoyed this really lovely view over the Puget Sound. And then it was time to turn around, and I looked at that hill. I was like, I don't want to walk up that hill. And I have this perfectly good horse who can carry me up the hill. Well, I don't have a helmet. And that's the other thing I do. I always ride with a helmet because head injuries are the most common accident for horse people. And there's a lot of statistics. Emergency room doctors just talking about how why wearing a helmet when you ride a horse is a good time, because you're not always on top of the horse. Sometimes you accidentally end up off the horse unintentionally. So, and frankly, our noggins are just not really that sturdy. So, and I wear a helmet for everything else, so I wear a helmet doing that too, and I like to protect my skull. So, but still, I didn't want to walk up the ding-dang hill. And Odin was in it, he was very attentive. He was just really calm. And I have ridden him around bareback around here, just with a halter and lead rope, and it's fine. And so, against my better judgment, I flung the lead rope around his neck and asked him to come up to a stump so I could get on, because I am just not a 10-year-old girl anymore, and I can't just sort of, take a running jump and fling myself onto the back of a horse like I did when I was 10. So he was, he's really good about that. He's really good about lining up to a stump, even, tromping through some brush and stuff like that in order to get through to the stump. He was awesome about that. So I got on him, told him what a good boy he was, and I do positive reinforcement, so I gave him a treat, and he, and just started walking him up the hill, and I figured if anything, if he's not a super excitable horse, usually there's some signs that he's going to do something before he actually does it. So usually the first sign that something's going to happen is that his head will come up, or maybe before that, his ears will be, sort of zeroed in on whatever has his attention. So, I just kept an eye on his ears, just made sure I was aware of where his head position. When the horses are relaxed, they tend to, kind of drop their head and just, kind of plod along, and I was totally fine with that. So, I figured if his ears were off in a direction and his head was coming up, I would just jump off, super easy, no stirrups to get tangled up in, totally fine. So I just had him carry me up the hill. It was really nice. He was totally game for it. So, and I just promised I would get off at the top of the hill, and I did. He stopped when I asked him to stop, and I got off, and it was totally fine. So, rest assured, I generally try to use my good judgment, and actually that ended up being a good choice. Would I do it again? Oh, probably, but again, there's always risk assessment in everything that you do. So just being aware of your surroundings and knowing what the proper signs are when you have to do something different. That's, I think, the best way to approach things and remain safe. And I personally have a giant responsibility in, not only keeping myself safe, which is a big priority, but, keeping my horses safe. They completely rely on me for my judgment. If I'm asking them to do something that's against their better judgment, horses are very risk averse. That's how they have survived for 50 million years. It's just, being very risk averse and fleeing from perceived danger, and then evaluating it when they're a safe distance. So I take that responsibility very seriously, just keeping them safe. So, and that helps our relationship. And when you have a non-verbal creature that doesn't necessarily understand your language or even your logic, it's really important to keep that in mind, that your number one goal is to keep them safe, even if you're asking them to do something that may seem ridiculous to them, like tromping through brush so that, I can get on, and then walking up this hill. So, although Odin is probably not aware when I'm wearing a helmet or not. Or if he does, he doesn't necessarily correlate what that means. So that was Odin. Bragi, I'm still working on trailer training with him. It's going very well. I'm using a method, I think this was a Shauna Karish method, and her YouTube video channel is linked in my show notes. She does positive reinforcement, and she teaches her baby horses to get on horse trailers using this method of what's called target training. So when you target train, you hold some sort of an object. I'm just going to do a for instance. So for instance, this is like a physical therapy type. But, you can have an object like this, something smooth, safe, blunt, it's not going to hurt anyone. And you just say, here, horse, target this. And then they touch it with their nose, and and what I do is I go, make that noise, and they get a treat. So they have this correlation that when I make that noise, that they have done something good. So, so I'm using a traffic cone, an orange traffic cone, as the target. And I taught Bragi how to target it. So I have the cone out. I say, Bragi, target. And he does. He touches it with his nose, and he gets a treat. So I have moved that traffic cone incrementally inside the trailer. So now he's getting all 4 feet in the trailer. We worked on it this morning. he touches every time he touches the cone, he gets that and a treat. So, yeah, and we're doing it at Liberty. I don't even have a halter and a lead rope on him. He's just, it's a fun game for him, and I think that's the best way to teach, is make things fun games. So it's taken me a very long time to learn that, because I'm a very serious person. I tend to think about exercises and drilling and stuff like that. Well, that's really no fun for everyone, and including me. So making it a fun game, and yay, you did it. That's always I think the best approach. So we're working on that, and it's helping him get more comfortable, and I'm also teaching him how to get out of the trailer safely. So that's an important part of this. So he gets in, he touches the target, and then he backs out. I tell him how to back out, and it builds his confidence, and that's a very successful way to do it. So I'm super happy about that. And the other thing that I'm doing horse-related wise, I started volunteering for a local pony club program. Pony Club, I think, is a program that originated in Great Britain a long time ago. And it's just a really good system for teaching. It's aimed for children, but there is an adult pony club. And I didn't grow up in pony club. We didn't have it around here when I was a kid. And in fact, this program here, where I go, it has only been in existence for about 2 or 3 years. There's other pony club chapters in the local area. I think, and I don't know for sure, I think those kids have to have their own horse. In this place, they are either leasing or borrowing, but they have an assigned horse for the whole, their duration. So it's really fun. I volunteered at this place before. I really like the program, and it's just been very positive. I've been helping out with 2, this is English style riding, and also they tend to focus on doing jumping, either in the arena over just regular wood poles, or out in the field. So the first time I volunteered, which was a week ago, it was out in the field, and there was these natural obstacles, in other words, logs, in different places in the pasture. So these girls, they're all girls in this case. I doubt it's limited to girls, but in this case, there's 3 girls in the first class and then 4 in the second class. And they're at different levels. The first younger girls are at a slightly more beginner, but still quite independent as far as like getting their own horses, grooming them, tacking up, and putting their bridles on. And then the older girls are, they're more high school level girls. I think they're all high school level girls. And so they're riding horses that are not quite as well trained, and there may be some training issues that they need to work through with the instructor's assistance, and they're doing more complicated exercises, and higher jumps too. So it's a really great program. My role is to assist the instructor. I set up the jumps, per whatever exercise that she wants them to do. And I also can kind of demonstrate certain things. And if the instructor needs to divide the group for some reason, I can, do very simple exercises with the girls that she's not working with. So that's what I do. That's been really fun. I enjoy it a lot. So that is all I have, which I've been yammering on for almost 45 minutes now. I hope you have had some good crafty time, whether you're a knitter, a crocheter, cross stitch, or embroidery, or whatever it is you do. That's typically what I do when I listen to podcasts or watch podcasts, is I'm usually knitting. So I am going to add some fun photos from vacation to the end of this. So hopefully you enjoy those, and feel free to like and subscribe and add any comments that you wish. And my list of resources and how to contact me are in the show notes. So have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.